Welcome to Visions. I am Helen Rochcoot and our guest today is Melissa Hocking. Melissa is an anatomical physiologist, an author, presenter, teacher and facilitator of quantum bioenergetics. She heads up the Quantum Bioenergetics International, and she's here today to discuss the extraordinary process of healing known as the quantum bioenergetic balancing technique. Welcome, Melissa.
Hello, Helen. How are you going?
Really well, thanks. So excited to be speaking to you today. So tell us, Melissa, what is quantum bioenergetics?
Look, it sounds terribly confusing, doesn't it? It's got a lot of syllables. It sounds very technical and scientific, but it's actually far simpler than people think it is. Quantum bioenergetics is a nice generic term, and that's why we've kept it as we have. It's the use of readily available quantum-based frequencies, which we use through the human energy anatomy to help the biology heal itself. So it's quantum bioenergetics. We've kept it that generic because it finds its basis in quantum mechanics. It finds its base in a quantum frequency. And as such, it's continually evolving. So we had to keep it something generic so we could allow it to evolve to be all it needs to be when it needs to be. Because today we're talking about the balancing technique, and that was how it initially introduced itself to us.
Fantastic. And so that was my next question for you. What's your history? How did you become involved with quantum bioenergetics?
My history, well, I'm an anatomical physiologist, as you mentioned, which is like being a mechanical engineer of the human body. And several years ago now, I read an article on the effect of quantum frequencies on the human cell, which was, a scientific paper that I'm sure everyone read, terribly interesting. Yeah. But it resonated so cleanly with me and so amazingly with me that I knew I had to look into it further. Now I was working in rehabilitation on a lot of elite athletes that you'd know the name of. I was in a really great job working in that rehab as well. And but when I read this article, I started searching around the world for the guy that wrote it. And discovered that 3 days later he was lecturing in Melbourne in Australia. I went to that lecture and found a crowd that I really was not expecting. So I was expecting medical professionals, I was going there as a professional, and instead what I found was effectively a new age crowd. There's a lot of, crushed purple velvet and incense and oils and, but more than that, 80% of that crowd at least were desperately ill. And I didn't know that this gentleman was presenting differently to what that article had said, but unfortunately he turned out to be what I could only call a charlatan, calling himself a miracle healer and a guru and things like that. But the gift that man gave to me that day was the fact that these frequencies, these quantum-based frequencies, were readily available to everyone. And that's where the whole journey began in quantum bioenergetics for me, realising that this amazing process of healing, this phenomenal process that we've never seen before, was available to anyone that wanted to use it. It's everyone's gift.
Everybody's gift.
Yeah, anyone can use this. So, and that's where the journey began. Since then, there's been a mountain of research and a lot of, incidental education, I guess, experiential education. But yeah, the journey continues and it keeps unfolding.
Absolutely wonderful. Absolutely. So what exactly is the balancing technique known as the quantum bioenergetic balancing technique?
Well, that's the healing process that we're talking about, and this is how it initially presented itself to us. We started seeing people heal from things that we didn't think people could heal from. We started seeing, in this balancing technique, we started seeing people heal from permanent disabilities, chronic disease, terminal disease, things that we didn't think were curable or fixable, or you were given you're going to die from that cancer, or you were going to die from AIDS, or you were going to die from the permanent disability that was crushing the body's major organs or whatever. And since then we've seen differences with it. So a backward step back to what the balancing technique is. The definition of what the process of healing is, it's a hands-off process of healing. It's actually very non-invasive, non-intrusive. It's hands-off and the body's immersed in these frequencies. That body then recognises what it needs to do. Everybody has the ability to transfer these frequencies themselves, and so we see in that first full immersion process, the body takes off and elevates under these frequencies and then prioritises a healing for itself. That's the most incredible thing in this for me, to see that in the healing process, that the body prioritises what it wants to do. The downside is that I can't guarantee what is going to be healed. And, and that's a bit sad that I can't say, look, someone's walked in with, a stage 3 cancer and I can't say, well, we're going to fix that. All I can say is, okay, well, let's see what we can do. It's unusual, very rare for something that extreme or that serious to not be targeted by their own body, but I have seen it occur.
Wow.
So, but one thing that we can say is there is always a healing.
Yes.
There's always a healing. It may not be what they expected, but there is always a change, and it's amazing to watch.
Fantastic. Could you give us a few examples?
Throw an issue at me.
Okay.
I can give you 1,000 examples and 1,000 stories, but yeah.
What about a terminal?
Well, we can start with cancer if you like, because it's common for all of us. I think nearly everyone I know is touched by it somewhere in their family or in their relationships. But I can also speak about cancer from empathy. I've had cancer myself twice. I first got cancer when I was 19 years old. I was diagnosed with uterine cancer, and it's about 15 years ago that they gave me 2 weeks to live. Now, I didn't know about quantum bioenergetics. It's in hindsight that we look back and we realise what turned things around. But from that, I can speak empathetically about a lot of clients that we do see. Probably a great story is a little girl. And this is a good story to show how instrumentally we can actually be amazing facilitators with these frequencies as well. We use our own bodies instrumentally to apply this process. We have no pretense of controlling the situation. What we do control, though, is how we operate in it. And so we're at the Children's Hospital. Now, my own son was having surgery, and we were in recovery, and a little girl with only hours to go came in. We immersed her completely in frequency, and I heard the nurses say she only had a couple of hours to live anyway. 3 weeks later, we burnt back for a post-operative checkup, and that little girl walked past the elevator as the elevator doors opened.
Oh, fantastic.
So,
well, stay tuned as we go to break to hear more about this amazing balancing technique. Melissa, that is just so amazing.
it was. She was walking on her own and laughing with a new downy growth of hair. It was amazing.
Well, we just have to go to ad break now. So stay tuned. You're watching Visions, and we'll be back in a few minutes to find out more about this amazing form of healing.